to come over to the dark side, and here I am today, security automation engineer at Acrisure. I'm also a craft beer lover, a horror movie addict, metalhead, and privacy advocate. So let's take a minute to quickly discuss why I'm giving this talk. It originally came as an epiphany I had while I was attending a previous con last year. I was sitting in the conference room listening to a presentation on reverse engineering assembly language, and I'm not going to lie, I started to nod off a little bit. I came to the conference to get ideas and processes that I could take home with me, and listening to reverse engineering assembly wasn't exactly one of those things. Looking around, I saw other sysadmins, IT directors, and small teams who also probably thought this talk was super cool, but they couldn't use the information they were getting in a practical manner. So this talk is going to be very high level. I'm not dropping any mad CVEs or say anything new or groundbreaking. So for any hackers or blue teams who are attending, this might be a bit of a review for you. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. This first section is going to go over the free stuff. These are things that you either already have in your environment or open source tools that you can leverage at no additional cost. To echo Alyssa's point from the keynote, you don't need to buy all the things. So first up is LAPS. LAPS, which is the local admin password solution, provides management of local passwords for domain-joined computers. Passwords are stored securely in Active Directory and protected by ACL, so only eligible users can read it or request its reset. All right, so what problem are we trying to solve with this? Threat actors can and will laterally move throughout your environment using the built-in local administrator account on a PC when they eventually crack that password, because they're going to. It's a matter of fact at this point. It's taking advantage of our build process as well, right? When a new PC or server is spun up, we're often using SCCM or some sort of golden image that probably has the administrator password set already. Deploying LAPS will make it so that every PC and server has a very long and unique password stored in an Active Directory attribute of that PC or server item in AD and can be rotated on a configured schedule of your choosing. So what does deploying this tool look like? Microsoft thankfully makes it really easy. The link to package, or the link to the package you need to download and install it, is located in the slide, but you can also easily Google LAPS and you'll get them all the same. So what is it that we're downloading? We're going to the install package, which is going to be used to control the password setting and rotation of your endpoints, as well as an admin interface to look up an admin password rather than needing to go dig in that AD attribute if you don't want to. We're also downloading the documentation because RTFM is very well, still applicable here. You're definitely going to want to make sure that you understand this documentation and review it before you go about this. You can also implement this as fast or as slow as you want. Because the agent is pushed out via GPO and the GPO needed to enforce LAPS, or thankfully that, GPOs, that means you can start with the test group or test OU and expand on that as you feel comfortable. A couple considerations when deploying LAPS. Using LAPS in a largely distributed environment can be a little tricky, especially in today's COVID environment with everybody working from home and not everybody necessarily connecting or talking to your local Active Directory every day. So in order for this to work, your PCs need to be able to contact the local domain. If you're an Intune subscriber, I would recommend you look into SLAPS, as I like to call it, or serverless LAPS. But we're not going to get into that too much, but it's another great solution to using LAPS in a largely undistributed or more distributed environment. So next tool we're going to talk about is Pingcastle. Pingcastle is a great audit tool for Active Directory. And as you can see here in the slide, there's a couple steps to using it. You can download it at pingcastle.com as long as you're not an MSP or MSSP, or you're trying to make money off the reports, or remediating them for another company. It's covered under the open source license. So download, run that, and then it actually generates really pretty reports that breaks down exactly what security flaws and things that is found in your Active Directory. So here's an example report that was ran. You can see it's broken up into actionable items, gives you a nice risk score that your managers and your C-levels are going to like, and then breaks it out by risk model and highlights what your most vulnerable areas are. So to break it down even more, I should also mention the report spits out in a really nice HTML document. And as you go down the report, it actually breaks out each finding that it has and gives you details on what kind of points that it, or what the, how it got to that score, and gives you each points and how to remediate each, along with a nice explanation as far as what it found and why that's a problem. So passphrases are up next. Passphrases are awesome. I nerd out when it comes to passwords and password security. So what problem are we fixing by requiring or using passphrases? You already know it, but I'll say it anyways. And to steal the words from the mouth of Chris Roberts, passwords freaking suck. Our complexity requirements today are usually garbage, or aren't very good. We've taught our users incorrectly for years. Using an 8-character password with caps and numbers and special characters and all those things is what we've historically set. The problem with that is that winter 2020 or winter 2020 exclamation mark actually meets those requirements. So we need another way. So how do we do it better? We increase password length to 15 characters or more, remove complexity requirements, and expire less frequently or not at all. Expiring less frequently or not at all will help prevent your employees from setting bad passwords, because they aren't iterating through their old password by changing a letter or a number or adding an exclamation point. Our wonderful friends here at XKCD have the best graphic I've seen that explains this. So please, if you can Google this and grab it, or take a screenshot right now if you need to share with your decision makers if you get pushback on this. Because again, at the end of the day, we need passwords. Nobody, to my knowledge, has come out with something that is a replacement for password yet at this time. So that's something we need to be aware of and secure properly. Passphrases and AD. That LM hash though. So we've still got quite a few slides and grounds to cover. So I can't get into exactly what the LM hash is or why it's stored. But know this: because of an awesome thing called rainbow tables, we can crack most passwords stored as an LM hash. If you're not familiar with rainbow tables, I implore you to do some research, but the long and short of it is rainbow tables are pre-calculated hash tables to make password cracking that much easier and quicker. So the simplest way to prevent Windows from storing an LM hash is actually to make sure your password is at least 15 characters long. In this case, Windows stores an LM hash value that cannot be used to authorize the user. So if it does get dumped or captured, when they crack it, it's not gonna be able to, or not gonna be of any use to them. BitLocker, because your laptops will walk away. So let's encrypt all the things, because your laptops are going to walk away and your C-level is going to leave his Surface Book on that taxi or in the airport or whatever. Thankfully, BitLocker is built right into Windows 10 Pro or greater versions. And when you encrypt a PC with BitLocker, it exports a decryption key that you can then store, hopefully in your MDM, if you're fortunate enough to have an MDM solution, or if not, in AD as an attribute, or if you must, in a secure location, in an IT file share somewhere, if that's your only option at that point. So these next two controls we're going to talk about could have very adverse impacts if not fully tested and understood before implementation. So make sure before you do these, you research them to their fullest and have gone over what the impacts might be when implementing these. LSA protection, Mimikatz, no more. So there's a whole rich history around Mimikatz. Basically, some French guy really ruined everybody's day at Microsoft when he dumped this awesome tool that red teamers use, to my knowledge, on almost every engagement. So at a high level, Mimikatz is an application used to dump LSAS for the purpose of cracking passwords offline after the fact. Enabling LSA auditing via registry key on test systems can help us go towards the first step in securing LSAS and LSA. So when you enable this registry key, it will create Windows events 3065 and 3066, which will give you indications of what applications are interacting with LSA, so that you can do research and make sure that before you enable LSA protection, that any applications that are interacting with LSA are basically are supported for using LSA protection. And then so finally, to enable LSA protection, it's also just a simple GPO. Thankfully, Microsoft once again has a great guide on this, which is, the link's there, but you can also, feel free to Google. So next up is LLMNR, NetBIOS, and WPAD. So what problem are we trying to solve by disabling these protocols? A wonderful red team tool called Responder. Responder is an application that listens for requests on these protocols with the end goal of getting password hashes to crack. This isn't a red team talk, so as with Mimikatz, I employ you to take a look around and do your research on these applications and these protocols as well. The fix for this is very straightforward, thankfully. Once again, there are GPOs for these protocols to disable them, but you're going to want to start with a few test machines and work with your team to identify any legacy applications or other cases that still leverage these protocols. I know in the past, especially with NetBIOS and WPAD, I personally have broken some legacy protocols just during my testing phases. So definitely make sure you do research on those before you set forth. Our last set of controls, or the bottom half of this presentation, is going to be on Office 365 controls. To preface this, all the changes that I'm going to show you assume that you have an E3 license at a minimum. First up is geo-blocking. Does your company work primarily in the US of A or a few select countries? Then why allow logins from places where you don't actually do business? Setting this control is done through conditional access policy in AD, as well as a few other controls we're going to look at today. So how does this work? Azure AD allows you to create named locations, and you create a location with all the countries that you don't have a presence in, and create a conditional access rule to block logins from those locations. Many people have pointed out to me that this can be circumvented with the VPN, which we acknowledge, but this will protect you against the bots and skitties who aren't that smart. It's the reason why we have defense in depth, right? So next up is blocking basic authentication. This is to help you with credential stuffing. Bots and other automated attacks most often leverage IMAP and POP3 for their automated attacks. Disabling basic authentication drastically shrinks your attack surface. So what doing this does is forces modern authentication. And if you are using Office 365, I guarantee you that you've seen modern authentication. When you log into portal.office.com or portal.azure.com, and you get the nice pretty sign-in box, we have to fill in your creds and then provide MFA, hopefully. That is modern authentication. So when you enforce modern authentication, all of your clients from Outlook to your iPhones are going to require modern authentication. So if they initially were set up with basic authentication, especially I've seen this very prevalent on iPhones, when the Mail app was set up with basic authentication, and you turn this on after the fact or enforce modern authentication after the fact, you do have to at times remove the account and re-add it so that it renegotiates with modern authentication, as it'll keep prompting you for the password over and over and over again without any success. Alerts for new inbox rules, because moving all items from a sender to the RSS folder that has the word invoice in it is totally legit, right? So a common IOC in email account takeovers is the creation of inbox rules to obscure malicious activity. You can easily create an alert for this in alert policies under the Security Center of Office 365. In doing so, your SOC team or yourself or your help desk, or however you want to handle it, will get an email alert anytime an inbox rule is created. Now you might think I'm crazy. That seems like it would be a lot of chatter. But in implementing this in production, you'd be surprised at how little inbox rules actually get created, especially after, if this environment is one that has been in use for a while. So if you're going from an environment that has been recently migrated, then this might be chatty initially, but after a while you should easily be able to investigate these without being overwhelmed. Disabling external auto forwards is another very easy control that you can do to prevent data exfil. So a common way for threat actors to exfil data is to auto forward all emails to an external address. Normally we do this, or threat actors do this on the account itself rather than creating an inbox rule. So that can also be disabled with an exchange level mail flow rule. So I have an example over there on the side. And as you can see, if the sender is located inside the organization and the message type is an auto forward, you can actually disable or reject the message from going out. I have seen some pushback on this one, especially from executives who, for whatever reason, forward their emails to their personal account. So that's a conversation that needs to be had. But this rule is a very easy way to make sure that when an incident does happen, it doesn't end up as a data breach. MFA all the things, because I'm going to keep saying it until you do it. MFA can be broadly enforced via Azure conditional access policies. So you can grant access that require MFA authentication via conditional access policies. All these policies are very easy to set up, but if you're not familiar with them or have never done them before, I'd be happy to help you with that or answer any questions. You can hit me up after the talk for any questions you have about conditional access policies or Office 365 controls in general. So let's get out of our tech bubbles. To echo some points that Alyssa had mentioned yesterday, at the end of the day, your business is going to win when you need to make a decision, especially in InfoSec. So understand your business, not just your business systems. Learn to make business cases for your perceived needs. Talk their talk. Communicate with business language. Secure and enable your business to run. Do you understand CapEx versus OpEx? Why your business might hate OpEx? These are some points to really dive into and understand that'll help you elevate your career. As you're talking and making decisions, especially some of the ones we've talked about today, there can be adverse impacts. So make sure that you're talking with your business, not to your business. And unfortunately, with this being my first talk, I talked way too fast. So my time is super short, and I apologize for that. But thank you for listening to me make a fool of myself. Shameless plug, donate to Thorn, donate to the EFF, two organizations that are very near and dear to my heart. You can follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn at SecOptandHops. Thank you.